delivered straight to you. Watch the news leader, WDAY News.
Recreational marijuana in Minnesota comes after years of advocating.
News you can trust from the most experienced team in the region. On and off the field with expert coverage and analysis.
Swung on and missed. Oral Roberts is the Summit League Tournament champions.
WDAY News. Send your weather-related photos or video to the WDAY Storm Tracker team. Contact weather@wday.com or share them with us on Facebook and Instagram. Keeping an eye on the sky. The WDAY Storm Tracker team.
Somebody has to stand up for victims.
Weekdays at 12 p.m. You're watching WDAY Extra. Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something. Is
Hot Mic. Hot Mic. On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo. Dom Izzo.
Good Tuesday morning. This is the beginning of summer edition of Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls at Inforum.com on another warm day, the 6th of June, 2023. Ready to rock and roll. Just taking a deep breath after last night. Boat Race City in the Stanley Cup Final, which we'll show you in a second. We've now reached the time of the calendar where, like tonight, when I was doing what to watch tonight, and I'm like, because we were without any NHL and NBA tonight. You've got, obviously, baseball going on. There's only so much one can take in of that, even as a diehard baseball fan like myself. We're an off day at the College Softball World Series. That resumes tomorrow. The baseball tournament is off until the weekend. So now it's, for every sports network out there, now it's, all right, it's slim pickings between now and basically the beginning of August for what content is out there. There's some WNBA tonight. There wasn't anything that appealing to put on there. So we've reached that part of the calendar year. But that does not deprive us of anything good to chat about. We got plenty of good stuff coming up on our show this morning. So excited about that in anticipation of a fairly busy weekend. Lots to get to coming up here over the next few days. I want to start our show, and there's invariably going to be NFL news, and there actually is today, which we will chat about as our show goes on. We mentioned the hockey game last night. Now, for those that have stayed away, not interested, and maybe you flipped it on last night because it was on 6 different channels, whether it was TBS, TNT, True TV of the Stanley Cup Final between Vegas and Florida. If you have not experienced or seen a Las Vegas hockey game, last night brought you everything under that umbrella and then some. Environment, the scene. I mean, watch this. When they introduce the team, it is about as electric as it gets there. For a city that the NHL was taking a flyer on, no one had gone to Vegas yet. They have completely embraced it. And by the way, their team is damn good. That's all you need to know on how this team plays. Because once again, they scored the first goal of the game. Jonathan Marchessault is just a beast. Power play goal makes it 1-rip. It's already 3-0 here in the second period when things just totally went awry here for the Panthers. A broken stick next to Brett Howden, who makes a fabulous move on a dish from Mark Stone to make it a 4-0 Vegas lead. Stone is the guy to watch. You see his stick get snapped in half, still able to throw a check, get a new stick, and then make the dynamite feed to Howden to set up the goal. That's a shift. That is everything and then some. It was 4-0 in favor of Vegas after 2 periods. The game was essentially over. Bobrovsky got pulled. He has not been good so far. Things, though, got crazy here. And I appreciate ESPN doing this. Spot shedding the 2 highlight players, and Matthew Tkachuk and Jack Eichel, as Tkachuk leveled Eichel, and you knew a Donnybrook was going to ensue after that. Eichel left, and you thought the worst there, and he's their playmaker. Watch again. I mean, he almost braced for it. That's a clean hit, I think. I mean, he got him in the head. That's the part that's going to freak everybody out. He got a 10-minute misconduct and was gone. Eichel came back, which was, I think, to everybody's surprise. And then he ends up making this feed to Marchessault to make it a 5-1 Vegas lead in the third. So, heck of a comeback there. Eichel, for college hockey fans, remember, of course, the Hobey Baker winner. He beat UND when they were in Boston. I was there, saw that happen. Vegas goes on and wins it 7-2, the final. They rout the Panthers and now lead the best of 7, 2-0, outscoring Florida 12-4 in the first 2 games of the best of 7. You see the penalty minutes. Tkachuk has gotten 2 misconducts so far in this series. Who's their best player? He can't be in the penalty box if Florida wants any chance of winning. They may be done anyway. The way that Vegas is playing, the depth they have, the Panthers cannot match that. I don't know if their magic has run out. They're going back home for Game 3, which will come up now on Thursday. They get 2 days off travel-wise here, so no game tonight, no game tomorrow, and they'll be back in action coming up on Thursday in Sunrise. But, boy, they got to change the momentum of this series because it is going the wrong way. Tkachuk's had 22 penalty minutes. Eric Stahl had 10. Sam Reinhart had 10. Cousins had 10. Duclair had 12. That's just, you saw the graphic of how many guys were in the box last night. And I'll say this. If this ends up coming to fruition and Vegas ends up winning the Stanley Cup, whether it's in 4 games here, 5, 6, whatever, that will set the standard for new franchises coming in of the model to do it. Obviously, they made the Cup final in 2018, their first year of existence when they lost to the Capitals. Now here they are 5 years later at a second appearance, and you're looking at established teams that have never gone. I'm looking at you, Minnesota Wild, and a handful of others that have never reached it, and you're just sitting there thinking, what are we doing? And I know Minnesota's in a tough spot cap-wise, that they have blown everything up to get out from under the contracts of Ryan Suter and Zach Parise, and it's going to be another difficult couple years for them. But that only adds the salt in the wounds to see what Vegas is going and doing. And they used some collateral, traded from those guys. Former Minnesota Wild prospect Alex Tuch actually went to Vegas, was a stud for them early on. Then they traded Tuch to Buffalo to get Jack Eichel. And that will round this story out because Eichel was a college sensation, 8 years ago, playing at BU in his hometown. Was the Hobey Baker winner that year. BU beat UND in the Frozen Four. They ended up losing, I think it was to Providence in the national championship game in Boston. I mean, he was going to be the next big thing in the NHL. Went to Buffalo and couldn't stay healthy. There's a ton of acrimony between Sabre fans and Eichel. They deal him. He goes to Vegas. Now he's having one of the greatest postseason debuts in NHL history because the Sabres haven't been to the playoffs in over a decade, so this is literally his first time in the postseason, and he's delivering in a big-time way. Hard to imagine he's not. It's either him or Marchessault that's going to win the Conn Smythe. And there's another guy that until Vegas came around as a franchise, I mean, this Jonathan Marchessault wasn't a thing. That he wasn't a a player. He was actually a former Panther. He scored 30 goals with the Panthers in 2017. And then since then, he went to Vegas and 27, 25, 22, 18, 30 last year, 28 this year in the regular season. He's been dynamite. And in the postseason, that's where he's been electric. The year they went to the Cup final, he had 8 goals. This year already, as you saw, 2 last night, he's got 12. I mean, it's him for the Conn Smythe, which is the playoff MVP. It's the entire playoffs. And then Eichel right underneath them. Hard to imagine anyone else than that. As I mentioned, Game 3 coming up on Thursday. Real quick, before we wrap up our opening segment, if we featured on What to Watch yesterday, so here's a rare home run for us, at the Women's College World Series between Oklahoma and Stanford. Oklahoma came in winners of 50 games in a row, 5-0, okay? They needed just one win to get to the championship series. Stanford needed to beat them twice. And so this happened top of the first inning. Literally, I went upstairs and a 2-run home run to start things from Caitlin Chun to give Oklahoma a 2-0 lead. Her dad, that's him right there, caught the ball, which is fantastic. But Oklahoma doesn't suffer anybody. It was 2-1. This is a bomb to tie it. The emotion in this game was fantastic. Some may think it's too much. I love it. I mean, you're trying to play for the championship. Oklahoma's won 50 games in a row, and Stanford's not messing around. They had a chance at OU. Stanford got out of it in the top of the 7th to strand 2 runners. Bottom of the 8th, Stanford had its chance. OU got out of it. We go to the 9th. Remember, they only play 7, so we're in extra innings. This is laced down the left field line. That was the first big hit that led off the top of the 9th inning for OU. It continued. They put runners on the corners with 2 outs. Again, that was how close Stanford was to getting out of the inning. That plates a couple of runs. That gave OU the lead at 4-2. Again, this is a team that has lost once all season. All right, you need almost a perfect game, and Stanford had it for about 8 1/3 innings yesterday. This is the final out of the game. Oklahoma wins its 51st consecutive game. 4-2. They'll get Florida State in the championship series. The Seminoles beat Tennessee last night to eliminate the Vols. It's a rematch of the 2021 title series. That's when this all began. Oklahoma's going for a 3rd straight national championship. And so that alone is ridiculous. I think people in Fargo can appreciate what they're trying to do. The fact that they've won 51 softball games in a row, they are an absolute machine. That was a fun game yesterday. Patty Gasto, the manager, the head coach of Oklahoma, said this is a game that you'll remember for 10 years. That's how much fun it was and how nerve-wracking it was throughout the game yesterday. So it'll be OU, Florida State. That will start tomorrow night in Oklahoma City. It's a best of 3. Game 1 is tomorrow. Game 2 on Thursday, and if necessary, a Game 3 coming up on Friday. All the games there on ESPN. The field of 64 in college baseball is down to 16. The regionals wrapped up yesterday, so the super regionals are set. We already know Oral Roberts will face Oregon. The sites will be determined later today for those that are not seated, much like ORU and Oregon is. We're all expecting that to be in Eugene. This is what the bracket will look like. Indiana State actually is seated higher than TCU, but because the Special Olympics is coming to Terre Haute, the Sycamores have to go to TCU. We're going to visit about that later in the week. Luke Martin will join us. As I see now, some of the regional sites are coming out. South Carolina and Florida is an all-SEC matchup. Duke upset Coastal Carolina. They'll get Virginia, so there's an all-ACC showdown. Tennessee will get Southern Miss. Tennessee upset Clemson. We showed that to you yesterday. That series will go Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Kentucky will get LSU. There's another all-SEC. Texas and Stanford will match up. And Alabama and Wake Forest. Wake Forest is the number 1 team in the country, which is a crazy team there, which is will be fun to see. Eric, you got to give me the breaking news sounder. You may have already seen this, but we got to do this before we go to break because this is a story we've been following for a while. This is coming in from CNBC. Headline reads, PGA Tour agrees to merge with Saudi-backed rival Live Golf. Headline reading, the PGA Tour has agreed to merge with Saudi-backed rival Live Golf in a deal that could see the competitors squash pending litigation and move forward as a larger golf enterprise. The two entities signed an agreement that would combine the PGA Tour and Live Golf's commercial businesses and rights into a new, yet-to-be-named for-profit company. The agreement includes the DP World Tour, also known as the European PGA Tour. Wow. After all the acrimony that there was this time last year that we were talking about, I remember leading up to the U.S. Open, I would imagine there might be some tournaments that are going to go away if this is happening. Wow. That's a shocker to me. There's rare things that still get me, but that one's pretty good on seeing that. The Live and the PGA now merging together. And there's not many more details other than that, but we will follow that throughout the morning. I'm sure we'll talk about that when Mike joins us, so that's a perfect segue to discuss what we got coming up on our show this morning. Mike McFeely will join us at 9:35. I'm sure we'll chat about this. And he had the story on Sunday. Grant Nelson has whittled down his potential suitors to 3 schools, Baylor, Arkansas, and Bama. We'll get into that coming up at 9:35. At 10 o'clock, speaking of Baylor, they're coming back to play hoops in Sioux Falls. Terry Vanderek will join us from Sanford Sports about, again, the Pentagon getting some dynamite college hoops games coming to Sioux Falls in 23-24, which will include Baylor facing off against Auburn. Pretty good game there. Remember last year was Baylor and Gonzaga that played a rematch of the national championship game in 21. Already announced Nebraska, Oregon State, and Oregon-Syracuse will play in Sioux Falls. That's coming up at 10 o'clock. And at 10:35, Fargo North kicker Max Watson will join us from Arizona, where he's kicking. Got actually to work out with the Cardinals yesterday. Max is now the next in the line of Fargo kickers. Emmett Kenny started this 3 years ago from Shanley, who's now kicking at Stanford. Landon Dawkin from Fargo South is going to UND this coming year. Max is going to be a senior at North this coming year. Might be the next in the line of great Fargo kickers. It's something else that's happening out of that position. He'll join us coming up at 10:35. That and a heck of a lot more here on a busy Tuesday. So we'll take a break. Hot mic off and rolling. We're back after this on WDAY Extra, KSFL in Sioux Falls and Inforum.com.
Save on your next painting project after 11% off everything at Menards. DuraClean exterior paint will keep your home looking beautiful by providing a weather-resistant coating with crack and fade resistance. 1 gallon is just $29.98 after rebate. Choose Dutch Boy Max Bond Plus exterior paint for exceptional adhesion and 1-coat coverage. It's a paint and primer in one that resists dirt, mildew, and repels rain 90 minutes after application. Get 1 gallon for $44.99 after 11% rebate at Menards.
Save big money at Menards.
I'm a firefighter, and I will always be a firefighter.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in North Dakota. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the NDHSAA.
News happens at all hours of the day and night.
Stories develop and situations change in the blink of an eye.
In our community, knowing where you can turn at any time of the day
for clear information and facts
is more important today than at any other time.
That's why we start our day
in the middle of the night
to gather new information
and be ready to bring it to you.
Tracking what has changed overnight and how that will impact your day today.
We're here for you with the most up-to-date news and weather
to get you on your way.
Because your community
is our community.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 in the morning, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. He asked all his therapists to help him undertake some of the house chores. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey.
Today, 1 in 5 working-age Americans has a mental health condition.
People in all types of jobs and at all levels.
And the key to helping us succeed is a supportive and inclusive workplace.
All of us have a role to play in making that happen.
So what can I do to help?
As a CEO, I can set the tone for supportive culture.
As a manager, I can offer assistance and accommodations.
As a coworker, I can listen and be a source of support to my colleagues.
As someone with a mental health condition, I can ask for what I need to perform my best.
I can offer all employees the supports they need to deliver on the job, for the team
and for the business.
What can I do?
What can I do?
What can I do?
I can remind others
that we all benefit from workplaces that promote good mental health.
Mental health-friendly workplaces are more important than ever.
And all of us have a role to play in promoting them.
Learn more at whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
I've been a GH fan my entire life.
I love the TAM fam.
I still think about the time I was at Port Charles.
I don't believe it.
But you can believe our shows are on back to back.
GH fans and the TAM fam love a good story.
Weekdays at 1 p.m. and 2 p.m.
Insanity.
911, what's your emergency?
All right, we're going to blow up the show rundown here with what just went down. And here's how I know this is a stunner for everybody on the PGA Live deal is that there are no stories ready to roll. ESPN just put out basically a press release on its website. CBS Sports doesn't have anything. CNBC broke this 20 minutes ago. So that tells me that this nobody knew about. And the reaction from so many here is that this is a complete stunner of how this went down. And for people that forget or don't know about the story, that last year all of this decided to blow up. It was last February, I want to say, February of 22, when the Live Golf Tour, led by Greg Norman, set out to create its own tour it's a different sort of event, tour where they only play 3 rounds of golf. It's team instead of individuals. It's backed by the Saudi government, which has rankled feathers with a lot of people, myself included in that. I don't feel great. It's a weird situation to get into. The PGA, I think, panicked. They decided to start banning guys that went, and they lost some headliners from Dustin Johnson to Brooks Koepka, who went. Bryson DeChambeau. I mean, there were some rather large names that left. At least American names. I think European names, there were guys that probably past their prime. Rory McIlroy was a very outspoken opponent of Live Golf. That has been tempered down in recent times. I think now we know why. Maybe Rory knew something was going on behind the scenes, that this was maybe potentially in the offing. And now here we are with a stunning merger that no one really knows where this is going to head, if it's still going to be the PGA Tour. But this is going to be involving everybody from the PGA Tour, the European Tour, and the Public Investment Fund, the PIF, which is the financial backer of Live Golf. That's where this is going. PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan's statement says, after 2 years of disruption and distraction, this is a historic day for the game we all know and love. This transformational partnership recognizes the immeasurable strength of the PGA Tour's history, legacy, and pro-competitive model and combines it with the DP World Tour and Live, including the team golf concept, to create an organization that will benefit golf's players, commercial, and charitable partners and fans. Going forward, fans can be confident that we will collectively deliver on the promise that we've always made to promote competition of the best in professional golf, and that we are committed to securing and driving the game's future. Interesting. I think there's way more questions than there are answers right now, as in what it's going to look like. You have to imagine that there are going to be some tournaments that can't exist anymore if they're going to combine these events. It's just as angry as each of these parties were. It's fascinating to me now they've all come back. I appreciate the No Laying Up Twitter account. If you guys follow that, if you like golf as much as I do. And I think this is where, to tell you why they're as surprised as I am, this tweet from 15 minutes ago. Virtually everything that has happened in the last 2 years has been rumored, hinted at, or at least done with some awareness in the golf community. This seems to be an absolute stunner for essentially everyone, players included. That is a absolute stunner for those that follow the game of golf. And again, no one's been able to find the Live Tour anyway. They've been stuck on, I think, the CW for their television rights holder. Another funny tweet. And I think Live Golf was charging people $3 per day to watch on freaking YouTube a few weeks ago, and now they're merging. I mean, I understand for some that's probably won't be this big a deal, but for those of us that follow the game or enjoy watching the game, I know that Tom Hoagie got pursued about this. He told Live Golf no about this time last year that they were hot on his heels. This is when the exodus was happening. Because you remember around the U.S. Open, which we're coming up on here in a couple weeks, that was the big question for guys that had left and the guys that were staying. And where you going, where you staying? And now this has all come to a head. It's really quite surprising. And this will be one of the main talkers, I have to imagine, for a majority of the sporting world today, is this went down. So we'll update as much as we can when we know it on what's happening here. But that's the latest, is that the PGA and the Live Golf Tour are set to merge. Don't know when, but it's all coming to a head here. It's kind of stunner here on a Tuesday morning. Real quick before we break, and Mike will join us here, and I'm sure we'll have some thoughts there on this news. We are sitting here on June 6th. Dalvin Cook is still a member of the Minnesota Vikings. That's not without apparently some traction to a potential trade. Story came out over the weekend, or at least maybe confirmed yesterday. The Vikings nearly dealt Cook to Miami, where he is from, back in March. The Dolphins cooled on it when they realized that they could have Cook for free, because it appears that the Vikings are going to move on from him, which we've known for a while, that they gave Alexander Mattison the money, and that's why this is still taking forever and a day to materialize. So, again, we wait on this because once the Cook move can happen, I imagine the Justin Jefferson contract extension will be announced in minutes after. Because as soon as they can get rid of the Cook money and give it to Jefferson, they will do it. I would anticipate that happening. But nothing as of yet. He's still a Viking, but he was close to being a Dolphin, and that appears to be still the team that he would maybe prefer to go to, and we'll see what happens. The Vikes begin their second session of OTAs today. Or sorry, this is their last, because minicamp is next week, so this is the last session of OTAs going this week down in Eagan, and then mandatory minicamp is next week. I think the Vikings would love it if they could announce the Jefferson contract extension next week when everybody's there, including JJ, Cousins, the whole boat, before they break for 6 weeks and come back for training camp at the end of July. But it's not on the media's tide table. This is on the Vikings decide to make this work. So we'll see. But Cook was nearly a Dolphin. That's probably still the odds-on favorite. That's where he's going. Potentially if this comes to pass. And we'll see. Again, we're all kind of waiting on pins and needles there on what's going to happen. We know it's going to happen, just a matter of when it's going to happen is kind of the deal. We'll take a break. We come back. Mike McFeely will join us. We'll get into the breaking news that just went down. And also, where's Grant Nelson going to play college basketball next year? We'll ask Mike about that and a whole lot more when Hot Mike returns on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls and Inforum.com. Back after this.
On the next Tamron Hall, our summer of sizzling shows is just getting started. From one of the hottest shows on Netflix, the stars of Never Have I Ever are here.
Catch you on the flippity flip. Gen Z is scary.
Then on Wednesday, Tay Diggs is back with the Tam Fam. Tay joins us for our first ever Tam Fam yearbook. Find out why he's been voted most likely to change the world. That's all coming up on the next Tamron Hall.
Weekdays at 2 p.m.
When you're injured or have serious health problems, some lawyers focus on just one aspect of your case.
At the Schneider Law Firm, we pursue every form of compensation. We help you get Social Security disability benefits and litigate your personal injury case.
When injured on the job, we can help with workers' comp. No matter what, for us, it's about results for you.
Call 877-740-2525, the Schneider Law Firm. There's no fee unless you win.
Wine country. It's beautiful. Patient. Exciting. And patient again. Welcome to your wine country. Happy Harry's Bottle Shops, Grand Forks and Fargo.
Please use our products in moderation.
Don't miss the Feed My Starving Children Fargo Pack in January 2024 at the Fargo Dome. With the goal of packing 10 million meals in just 10 days, this is the largest FMSC event ever held. They're looking for 55,000 volunteers to help make this happen. By giving just 2 hours of your time, you can help feed kids in need. But to make this event possible, they need your help raising the $3.3 million necessary to pay for food and facility expenses. Visit FargoPack.org to donate or learn about corporate sponsorship opportunities.
For 70 years, you've invited us into your homes as the most trusted source for news in the region.
That's why we continue to work so hard to keep you informed, providing more news today to more people than ever before.
We're the longest operating locally owned news station in the region.
And that's all thanks to you.
Thank you for making us the most trusted. Your voice for 70 years.
The news leader, WDAY News.
Love me tender, love me sweet, never let me go. You have made my life complete, and I love you so. Love me tender, love me dear, tell me time. Love me tender, love me true, all my dreams fulfilled. For my darling, I love you, and I always will.
I have seen the future, and he was wearing number 5, and I ain't talking about Robbie Grimsley, folks.
Took out the muffins, took out the trail mix, took out the cookies. They stole the monster cookies.
Wow, that's awesome. That is so awesome. Let's do some broadcasting.
Yeah. Well, let's do it. Mike McFeely here in studio. Story we talked about this time last year. Now, is this a stunner? There's so few things that stun us anymore on the PGA and the LIV coming together.
That one was a shocker to me. Yes. But what do sports come down to in the end?
Money, 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 money,
Correct.
money.
Correct. And so that's, if they avoided
litigation, which was coming, right?
And it was going to be an endless, the Saudis have a bottomless pit of money.
All right.
The PGA Tour has a lot of money, but not a bottomless pit of money. And so they all said, you know what? We can all get rich off this. And so let's just get together.
How is this going to work? I don't know how this is going to do this.
Well, there's going to be world events, I would presume, right?
And imagine some elimination of tournaments too, right?
You'd think so, yes.
Yeah.
I had no interest in the LIV Tour.
Right.
I had none.
I hadn't watched one yet.
No. Nobody had.
No, it's hard. It's on the CW for all places. So.
And so to me, that's a shocker.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I don't care. It just doesn't.
It makes sense why Rory McIlroy had buttoned up about it over the last month when people kept asking about it. He was like, "Yeah, I'm done talking about it.
Yep.
Now we know why."
Now it makes sense. Yep. Well, the bad part is now this Greg Norman gets a win and Patrick Reed gets a win. All these scuzzy guys like that are now
just dinks. I don't. Yeah, they are. They're just dinks. I don't care for them.
Right. It's just unlikable dinks is all they are.
And but there are so few things they catch us off guard anymore. This one got me. I mean, and apparently everybody else too.
Imagine when the Bison get invited to the Big 12. That's going to really be a shocker. Whoa.
Is that happening?
No.
Oh. All right.
But you never know.
Yeah, you never know, right? The LIV and PGA came together.
Yeah, it's just dogs and cats living together.
Maybe the AAC is calling Matt Larson right now.
Mike Oresco.
Give him a call.
Matt, Mike here.
What do you think?
You ready? That ain't happening.
What is happening? You reported on... Well, let's first go back, because the last time you were here was last Tuesday, and literally an hour after you were here, Grant Nelson decided to withdraw from the NBA draft and return to school. Let's give me... Because you've been on this the entire way. You were right. We bet on this last week.
Yeah,
you said he was going to go.
Where's my $5?
I'll take you out to lunch later. All right?
Is there a place to get lunch for $5?
I'll treat you a little bit more than that.
Really?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I know you were not. Not surprised.
McDonald's is okay. Don't want to sound like an old man here, but I'm going to sound like an old man here.
This is ground we've already been down.
That's when you know. Get the video rolling because this is going to be a Twitter highlight. A couple weeks ago, my wife, I got home from work late. So I got home like 2:30 p.m. No. Got home late, 7, 8 o'clock at night. My wife said, let's not make supper. Go out and get something. I go, what do you want? She's like, just go get McDonald's. Who cares? Okay. All right. Go to McDonald's. It's fine. I ate my share of fast food when I was a young sports writer. Every fast food imaginable I ate. Go to the McDonald's in Moorhead. I have no problem with McDonald's. I just have stopped eating it just because I just don't. I'm 56 years old and don't want to have a heart attack when I'm 58. Okay?
Not good for you.
No. Go through the drive-thru. I get a 2-hamburger meal with Diet Coke for my wife. I get a crispy chicken sandwich meal for me with a Diet Coke. So we get the two meal deals. Guess the total on that. A 2 hamburger meal deal
Yeah.
and a crispy chicken meal deal.
Like $16. Yeah.
$21.
Oh, my God.
Okay, now again,
I ain't taking a McDonald's for $21 on this.
I fully support people making a livable wage.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
I fully
yeah.
support that. People have to make their money. I have no problem with that. But my God, I mean, old man yells at cloud here.
Yeah.
I mean, back when I was a kid,
There we go.
it was like $3 for a meal.
Yeah.
And, I mean, back in my day, you could get you're probably too young for this, but McDonald's used to have they'd have the hamburger on one side and then the lettuce and tomato on the other. And I can't think of what it was called. It was like the McDLT or something like that.
Yeah.
And then so you keep the hot on one side and the cool on another. And this was like a huge innovation in the 80s. That was like $3 for that. Now I go get supper for my wife and it's $21 for two I mean, I feel bad for people who don't have a lot of money. I'm fortunate that
You're all right.
I make enough money that I can afford $20. I mean, imagine if you had a wife and a couple of kids to
took a
feed
family,
McDonald's.
right?
to. McDonald's is $50. My God.
What were we talking about?
I have no idea.
On Grant Nelson decided to return to school because we made a bet.
Who?
Yes. I know you're not surprised. So what do you think the ultimate deciding factor was? Obviously, his team must have been hearing that his position did not increase or draft position didn't rise from the combine.
As I understand it, they weren't getting any feedback on the possibility of him going in the first round. And what I gathered from Grant talking to him in Chicago at the NBA Combine was, he was going to be discerning. You and I thought from the start that once he left,
his NBA or bust.
Once the Summit League tournament ended, we thought he's going to go pro, whether it's as a draft choice, whether it's as a free agent, whether it's to the G League. We thought he's done with college basketball. But from what I learned talking to him in Chicago was he was much more discerning than that. That he wanted things to go a certain way. I don't think he wanted to go to I know. He didn't want to go to the G League.
Yeah.
He didn't want to do the two-way contract thing and do I'm going to play 20 games in Iowa and then come up for 5 games in the NBA. He didn't want to do that. He wanted to, he wanted to be in the NBA. And as they went through the draft process and the workout process, it became clear that they just weren't going to get that first round, guaranteed you're going to be on an NBA team no matter what. Right. And so Grant decided, I need more development. I'm not ready for this yet. And I think some of that showed in some of the scrimmage and the workouts and all that. So I'm going to go back to the highest level I can. I'm going to find a developmental program that runs a style that fits my game and is going to open the floor, run an NBA-style offense.
Man.
Eric Musselman, Arkansas. The guy at Alabama's name.
Nate Oates.
Yep. They all,
and Scott Drew at Baylor. Yeah.
Which is we'll get to that in a second. And obviously, a fit with the teammates and the chance to win, all those things matter. But it's a developmental year at college to help him get ready for 2024, as I understand it.
I guess the whole on this process, and I was surprised because I think I was under the mindset it was pros or bust.
And I was too until I had a chance to sit with him at DePaul and then spend some time in an Uber and just kind of hang out with him for a couple hours. I kind of went, okay, there's more to this than just I'm done with college, I'm going to the NBA or pro basketball.
Now, when I reported a couple weeks ago about the workout with the Nuggets, also reported that they had whittled the team had whittled their from over 30 schools down to about 5 or 6. You have it now down to 3 schools.
Down to 2 now, apparently.
Apparently, because Baylor initially was on there, but
there are reports on Twitter from one of these On3 guys or whatever the bloggers
follow the portal news.
That Grant Nelson apparently, according to these guys, did not make his Baylor visit today. I haven't confirmed that, but that's the word on Twitter. And a lot of these portal guys, they know. Some of them know a lot. Some of them just throw stuff against the wall.
Some don't know anything.
Right. And so, but we'll find out.
Because he's supposed to be in Waco today.
Correct. But that would whittle it down then to Alabama and Arkansas. He had Alabama scheduled for Wednesday.
Tomorrow.
Arkansas scheduled for Thursday and Friday. 2 days in Fayetteville. What does that mean?
Yeah, there should be an alarm going off on that one for people. Right.
And so if that's what it's down to, then that's what it's down to. There were some other schools in the mix, I think. So I think originally it was at 5. I think the maximum official visit you can take is 5 to have everything paid for, and you do that. You take as many unofficial visits as you want.
As many as you want, but you're paying for it.
But I think they'd whittled it down to 5, and then just decided, we're just going to do these 3.
That is, those are heavy hitters. Baylor won the national championship a couple years ago. If they're still on there, if not, Arkansas just beat Kansas in the national tournament. They went to this Elite Eight year.
The thing that's nuts about Arkansas is they finished like 9th in the SEC,
right?
And they got to the Elite Eight. They
Correct.
beat Kansas. It's like woo.
The year prior, they lost to Duke. They beat Gonzaga in the national tournament.
Yep.
And Alabama was ranked number 1 for a majority of the season until things really got sideways with what happened
whole thing.
Unfortunately, the murder of a student there by a member of the team. But they still, it's not just football at Alabama anymore. Men's basketball
it's fun.
is a
it's
thing
funny
there.
when you have all that SEC money coming in.
Yeah.
You seem to get good at everything. It's pretty amazing that way, isn't it?
How's that work? Your bet is Arkansas then? If you want to make another bet here, you're going to go Arkansas.
Am I going to get paid for this one?
Well, I'm not taking a McDonald's for $20.
Well, where are you going to go? What are we going to...
Got a ham sandwich in the gas station around the corner.
We're going to go to Hornbacher's. I'm going to get like 3 nuggets out of the deli case.
All right.
For
Nothing wrong
$5.
with those.
I'm talking about the cost. I mean, come on. You used to take me to like Jay's Smoking Barbecue. I used to go stick my face in a pile of ribs, and now we're down to 3 chicken nuggets at Hornbacher's.
Oh man. I miss that place over in
Moorhead.
Moorhead.
Just bring a piece of toast, I guess.
Napkin, salt packets.
Yeah, there you go. It's like my story of the Steak and Shake in Springfield, Missouri. I just told my wife this the other day. We're going to Springfield this year.
Yes, we are. It's back on the
Steak and Shake
trip.
on Battlefield Road in Springfield. Great. Steak and Shake, if you don't know, is this
dynamite.
I think a dynamite fast food kind of hamburger joint. The one on Battlefield Road. There's one by the campus of Missouri State you can walk to, which is fine.
That's not the one.
But there's one at Battlefield, which is a dive. It is a dive. There's like flies in the window. Just perfect type of Southern Missouri type of joint. Walk into Steak and Shake. Do I have time for this story?
Walk
into Steak and Shake. The last time I was in Springfield, or a couple times ago, sit down at a table. Nice young lady, 18, 19 years old, comes and waits on me. I order a lemonade. I'd gotten a lemonade. And she says, "Oh, you got a lemonade?" I said, "Well, yeah." She's like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "Well," I'm like, what's going on here?" She's like, "Most people don't order lemonade." I'm like, "Really?" She's like, "No, they just order water. Then they go over to the condiment bar and they get wedges of lemon and packets of sugar and they make their own lemonade." So thank you for ordering lemonade.
Yeah, right.
I would no problem.
Yeah.
When I was leaving, she said, "Would you like a refill in your lemonade? Would you like a to-go cup?"
Oh,
because they have those plastic not to go. Would you like a to-go cup for your lemonade? Not supposed to do that, but since you ordered real lemonade, I'll do that for you.
Nice.
I said, yes. So I walked out of there strutting with my lemonade. I gave her a nice tip.
I bet
she
you
was
did.
a nice young lady.
Well, this is the last time we're going to Mo State, right? Because they're leaving.
I thought we were leaving.
I think they're leaving before we are.
Oh my God! This was the same Steak and Shake, to give you the just outside of the Ozarks vibe, by the way. Same trip. Couple came in. They looked like in their 20s. They had a couple of kids, like young kids, like 1 and 3. Right? Sit down. Picture whatever you want to picture. Okay. A kind of a dirty Steak and Shake near the Ozarks in Missouri. Middle of the meal, not before, not at middle of the meal. Young dad gets up, walks out of the Steak and Shake, stands outside the window by the family's table, takes out a cigarette, lights the cigarette, smokes the cigarette outside the window, crushes out the cigarette, comes back in and finishes his meal with his family.
All right. Well, there you go.
God, I love road trips for Bison football. Just fantastic.
Oh, man. Let's take a break. We'll wrap up hour one. Much more. I don't know what else we'll talk about with Mike. We'll figure that out. We'll do that when we come back on Hot Mike on a Tuesday morning. We're back after this.
I'm Tyne Morgan, host of U.S. Farm Report. Join me right here each weekend as we explore the news and issues that matter most to agriculture. We know each year farmers and ranchers are thrown challenges, but as agriculture continues to adapt, we are right there with you. From markets to weather, we take a deep dive into what matters most to agriculture and rural America.
Saturdays at 6 a.m.
You got lots of money over here.
I want to go for it.
So do I. Let's do it.
You bet your life.
Give me the money.
More money.
$5,000.
Boosting the economy.
You seriously asking me this question, Jay? Coney Island. What are we doing over here?
Every weekday.
Kev, give me that money. Oh, yeah. I'm going to give it to you like an Italian uncle. Here you go. You get yourself a little something there. There you go. Right there.
Weekdays at 3:30 p.m.
This is a murder mystery of epic proportions. You get this picture of a jealous guy, thinks she's got a lover, and bang, she's dead.
What possessed you to do that?
Could this be a murder for hire? When you've got something that was this bad, somebody's got to pay. Dateline.
Weekdays at 1 p.m.
It's been said that when someone you love has Parkinson's, you have Parkinson's. The truth is, Parkinson's disease doesn't just affect the diagnosed. It affects everyone who supports and helps care for them. Worldwide, over 10 million people are living with Parkinson's, a neurological disease that affects movement. And with so many places to search for information, it can be difficult to know where to begin. The Parkinson's Foundation has answers. Answers for everyone in the fight. We can help you understand the disease, help you find expert care, give you tips for living a better life, share the latest research, help you find local support, and there's a free helpline you can call. Find your answers and join us in the fight against Parkinson's. To learn more, please go to parkinson.org or call 1-800-4PD-INFO. The Parkinson's Foundation. Better lives together.
Overcoming drug addiction was difficult, but I found the path to recovery that worked for me. Treatment helped me come to terms with the issues in my life that caused me to use drugs. And I found better ways to cope. Learning I had a substance use disorder helped me realize I needed to make a change. The road to recovery is different for everyone. There were good days and bad days. But I found strength in seeking help. My friends and family made a huge difference in my recovery. I never gave up. I found my path, and I keep walking it every day. Find the path that works for you. Learn more at cdc.gov/stopoverdose.
There are places, people, and conditions in this world that almost seem beyond hope. But not when Mercy Ships is there. Mercy Ships is a place restoring sight to the blind, happiness to the outcast, and joy to the brokenhearted. Mercy Ships is the reason why hope is now in sight. To learn more, go to mercyships.org.
Well, there it is. They found it for you. This is it.
The McDLT.
$1.95.
Well, but now wait a second. Now wait a second. There's a thing called inflation, Don.
Oh yeah.
I know.
Yes.
I know you're a sports
Yes,
guy. And
I know about it.
I know that you went to the State University of New York at Oswego,
Yes.
which impressive. So I don't know if they taught economics there. Now, I did actually enroll in an Economics 101 course at...
Is that right?
The Harvard of the Midwest.
Yeah. Minnesota State University.
Yeah. I did drop out after a week and a half. I did drop the class because I just didn't... It was like, did not understand. But I did know about inflation.
Yes.
My little handy-dandy inflation calculator tells me that $1.95 in 1984 would be just about $6 today. So... It's comparable if you do the math. You're throwing some fries, throwing a Diet Coke. 2 McDLT meals would probably be about $20.
All right,
so it's not far away. But God, those were the glory days, man. Look at that! Look at the fresh vegetables.
Yeah.
Oh,
it looks all right.
Oh, well, but the hot stayed hot and the cold stayed cold.
Yeah.
You didn't get all the mushy vegetables because of the heat from the burger. You got the burger straight off the flat top at McDonald's there, and then the cool, it was fantastic. God, those were the days. God, the 80s were great, weren't they?
Yes. No, I will not argue that.
If I'm not mistaken, and the crack research team that we have I thought Jason Alexander, George Costanza
himself,
I thought did a TV commercial for the McDLT. Where he's singing, singing and dancing. Just Google Jason Alexander TV commercial or something, and
they may find it.
I think it was for McDonald's with McDLT, but be that as it may.
Man, oh man. I wanted to ask you.
Confirmed, by the way, that Grant Nelson did not do a Baylor visit today.
Okay, so no Baylor. They found it.
Was it a McDLT? I can't see on your screen.
Yeah, it is. There it is.
See?
All right.
Yep. I don't know if is it legal that we can play this on our...
why not?
It don't matter, does it?
All right. Well, let me get the music on.
Of lettuce and tomato hamburgers in this town that don't quite make it? Yeah! You see that just once you'd like your hamburger hot and your lettuce and tomato cool and crisp all at the same time?
I've never seen this.
Well, I say, you got it. I'm talking McDonald's blue lettuce and tomato hamburger, the McDLT. I'm talking quarter pound of beef on the hot side.
And the hot stays hot.
The new McDLT. Hot. Crisp lettuce and tomato on the cool side.
And the cool stays cool.
The new McDLT.
Cool crisp.
The beef stays hot, the cool stays crisp. Put it together, you can't resist. The hottest taste, the coolest taste.
How long is this commercial?
Hot, easy, cool. McDLT. McDLT. Hot, easy, McDLT. Cool, crisp LT. McDLT. It's a good time. Hot, easy, McDLT. For the great taste. Cool, crisp
This is for a hamburger.
Could be the best tasting lettuce and tomato hamburger ever.
McDLT.
You're welcome.
I can imagine those things flew off the shelves, man.
Well, they're no longer around, so that tells you
my
how.
God.
But some of us were into them, man.
Our guy Jason Alexander.
How about
with
that?
hair?
That was pre-Costanza. Think about that. Song and dance, which we knew he was. We knew he was a song and dance man.
Absolutely.
He's a very, very,
great
very
on Broadway.
talented man.
Yes. Oh man.
McD, LT.
That's the highlight of my day right now. That's gonna be tough to beat to see that. Holy cow! Oh my God!
As my wife always tells me, I can't remember our anniversary.
Yeah, but you remember that?
But stuff like I can tell you that George Mitterwald batted .286 in 1973 for the Twins. And I can remember a McDLT commercial starring George Costanza.
Hey, before we go, speaking of your Twins, why do they keep trotting out Max Kepler when he's hitting $192? What's the deal?
Because they don't have anybody else. They don't have anybody else.
They got 2 guys behind them that can hit the ball.
Obviously, they don't think much of them either.
Wow.
Maybe George Costanza can. George Costanza can hit.
He did.
He was showing Jeter and Bernie Williams how to hit. He can. Jason, he can do it all.
It's really not that hard.
We won the World Series.
It's 6 games.
6 games.
Yeah, what does it say? You want to take hotels? You want to win some ball games?
Are you the guy that put us up in the Motel 6 in Milwaukee?
You want to talk hotels? You want to win some ball games? I can't. He can't. It all involves there. Thanks for coming by, bud. Good to see you.
I'm not sure what just happened.
I don't know either, but we
went from Steak and Shake to McDLTs to
a little bit of Grant Nelson in there. Yeah, we covered everything.
I don't know what that was.
Oh my God, that was good. Mike McFeely joining us each and every Tuesday on Hot Mike. We'll take a break. Hour 2 of the big show begins after this on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV, and Inforum.com. We're back after this.
We're making one of my mom's really famous dishes.
This show's being served family style as Chef Ronnie Wu cooks a simple throwback stunner.
You could eat this for brunch, lunch, or dinner.
And Rachel's meal is so big, she had to split it in two.
Yeah, I love this.
Plus,
the mission is to provide affordable housing. And for a long term.
Ukrainian sisters helping displaced families get big help from us. Next, Rachel.
Weekdays at 3 on WDAY.
If you're driven by an adventurous heart, you're in luck. The thoughtfully redesigned 2023 Subaru Outback shares your spirit. With standard symmetrical all-wheel drive, plus up to 32 miles per gallon. A 260 horsepower turbocharged engine, advanced technology, and an extra-large touchscreen. The 2023 Subaru Outback. Go where love takes you.
It's Outback Days, going on now at Muscatel Subaru.
From harvesting the grain, to the brewing, to the bottling, to shipping, crafting the perfect beer is hard work. Selecting it? That's easy at Happy Harry's Bottle Shops.
Please use our products in moderation.
I am so glad you ladies are here. You each have your own rooms. Thank you. Good.
Is it okay to call you Mom?
Of course you can.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
Any real-world experience.
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe, it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Thanks for buying a fishing license.
What the?
I know, but listen. I want you to picture all the great things this simple purchase does. Like building public boat ramps, keeping local waters clean so families can fish and swim, and maintaining a healthy fish population.
What's Mom doing?
It also provides fishing education and activities for the kids, and funds long-term plans to protect our lakes and streams.
Wow.
Wow is right.
Did he?
When you buy a fishing license, you do a lot. Because every dollar from a license purchase protects and maintains your local waterways for future generations to enjoy. Learn more at takemefishing.org.
This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody, to Hot Mike here on a warm Tuesday morning. Hour 2, ready to rock and roll. WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, Inforum.com, and streaming at Sioux Falls Live on this Tuesday. Our thanks to Mike for giving us the lowdown on the McDLT. We didn't know about it, but now we do. Apparently, that's what he comes in for. And to share some Grant Nelson info. We got that in the last half hour. That leaves the high bar for our next guest, but I'm sure he'll be able to clear it as we welcome in Terry Vanderbeck, our good friend from Sanford Sports Marketing down in Sioux Falls. who had the best tweet as we're talking about the NBA Finals. You were the leader in the Duncan Robinson bandwagon, correct? That was you?
Yeah. I was on early, I'll tell you that much.
He's my guy.
Yeah.
I love watching him play. He's it's amazing to see how many guys that played in Sioux Falls now playing in the NBA Finals with the Heat.
It's the players, it's the coaches, it's strength people, it's certified athletic trainers. And I've got a picture up right now. I'm counting 15 of the guys who are on or behind their bench who genuinely came through Sioux Falls and the Skyforce program and or part of our Sanford sports crew. So it's wild watching those games, seeing the contributions of a Duncan Robinson and Gabe Vincent, who I remember wearing this giant bulky knee brace because he was here coming off an injury. And, my kids and I are, sitting front row, chatting with these guys. And then again, to some guys who are genuinely, colleagues of ours and who were training, middle school kids with us and are now on the bench in the NBA Finals with one of the wildest, underdog stories and in NBA history. So we're just kind of giggling every single time. We had the Skyforce held a game one watch party.
Yeah.
Out at the Sanford Pentagon the other day, and you get to watch the games, and there was a giant game of lightning, and people were having drinks and all that kind of thing. So it's just I hope the rest of Sioux Falls is enjoying it a third as much as I am, because it's really unique.
We had the great tweet on Sunday night during Game 2. Great fourth quarter start for the Sioux Falls Skyforce. The first 15 points the Heat scored were all guys that played in Sioux Falls.
Yeah, and it wasn't like they were here for 2 games just because they were getting some reps. I mean, Duncan was here for, gosh, I want to say like a season and a half. And the other part of his story that I think people are forgetting now is that, he had reached the pinnacle, right? He got a $90 million deal, and then he fell to, repeated DNPs. He was out of it. People were talking about one of the worst contracts in NBA history. What are you going to do? Where can you even unload his contract? And now he changed that game in a matter of 3 minutes. And you can see, though, well, why did he change the game? It's not just that his shots are falling right now. It's that he's added some off the dribble stuff.
Yeah.
And he's added some sort of playmaking that people didn't expect from him. And that makes him really hard to guard. Meanwhile, he's going to give everything he has on the defensive end, and you got to hide him a little bit. But he's to be acceptable or an average defender for the Heat is probably better than most teams are operating at. So yeah, what a wild time. And again, credit when people talk about Heat culture, we get to see it here.
Yeah.
We get to see it here on a regular basis, and credit to the Heat for not only the culture, but frankly, believing in Sioux Falls, because the trend in the G League for many years now has been put something in your backyard. And they have bucked that trend, and they said, no, thank you. We like what we have going in Sioux Falls. Hopefully they like what Sanford brings to the table, the facilities and the training and the access. And here it's paying off, and just kind of, again, one of the ultimate underdog playoff stories.
I was going to ask, do you get a sense outside of the hardcore basketball fan that people in Sioux Falls have embraced this with the Heat? Have you noticed that over the last month?
It's really, I think it's hard to say, because there's not really like a watch party every time. And frankly, it's funny. The guys who run the show here are so invested that they're like nervous. Like even at the watch party the other night, they had like a backer room set aside where when they were in their feelings, they could go and kind of get away from the crowd. They're not the types that want everyone necessarily, looking at them while they're watching the game, which is a whole different story. But again, I think the people that were there, it was also fun. Like there were some Denver fans there, and that's cool too. Yep. Again, it's just so unique to have a market like Sioux Falls this connected to an NBA Finals. And so I think hopefully people are enjoying it. And I think, to your credit, Dom, I think it is easy for people to take for granted what's gone on in this market in the last 10 years. And this is a good example.
Well, I mean, I look at it, like you mentioned, it's not like the guys were there for a week or 2 weeks. I mean, they built up some equity there. There's an attachment that goes with if it's minor league basketball to minor league baseball, whatever. Like, well, I watched this guy, and now look what he's doing. I mean, inherently that goes in sports all the time.
Yeah, and it's not the first round either.
No,
I mean, again, they've been partners with the Skyforce now for, I don't know, probably going on 10 years. And you had that first layer of guys with, going back to probably Tyler Johnson was one of the first breakthrough guys. And I remember our folks who were doing kind of the preseason athletic testing from day one, they pointed him out and said quietly, That kid is an absolute athletic freak. Watch what he does. And again, $100 million later, I know he's taken some flack too for people, he hasn't maybe lived up to that hype, but the money he's earned is real. And so it'll be very interesting to see now what happens to Gabe Vincent, who's a free agent.
Yep.
Does Duncan Robinson end up, sort of getting moved while his stock is high? Those things can all happen. But again, we know behind the scenes that there's other dudes that are coming that have been positioned and that frankly, they don't all hit. That's the other thing that maybe people don't realize is the Skyforce and the Heat are not afraid to shuffle around from two-way guy to maybe a guy who loses his two-way deal, is willing to come back as kind of a regular G League player and trying to earn his way back. So it's not like they bat 1,000, but they've got a method. They're willing to cut bait if they feel like this guy isn't what we maybe thought he was going to turn into, and then they'll take a crack on somebody else. So it's really remarkable. And again, credit to those guys. And it's just a lot of fun to have kind of a front row seat to some of it.
Now, we've had you on before, and you remember that you posted the photo when you had Giannis come through. Is there any? Do you feel like a failure you haven't got Victor Wembanyama through yet? Is that an opportunity? Can we get him in Sioux Falls?
Right. We missed out on Scoot last year, Scoot Henderson, because the G League Ignite team plays a unique schedule.
Right.
And so they didn't play here last year. The year before that team did. So Dyson Daniels, some of those guys, they played here. But yeah, we haven't had Scoot. We haven't had Wembanyama. So, who knows? We'll keep that on our wish list.
You are going to get another dynamite lineup of games that are coming to the Pentagon. Last week announced that Auburn and Baylor are coming in. Baylor for the second year in a row, the 2021 national champs will play in Sioux Falls. That game coming up on November 7th to join Syracuse and Oregon, along with Oregon State and Nebraska. Let's start first with the Baylor and Auburn game. TV. How did that? What was, I guess, Scott Drew's reaction, and then to say, you know what, absolutely, we want to come back to Sioux Falls again.
Yeah. So that was in short. That was it.
Yeah.
And that's we saw it with Gonzaga. We've seen it with Iowa. We've seen it with some of those schools that will come back, not only occasionally, but in consecutive years. I mean, that even if they're not saying it, that's how we're interpreting it. It's like, wow, Baylor had such a good time. They want to come back. And so that's the kind of one of the bigger compliments we can get. The fun angle about that game is that those two fan bases apparently have some history. And so when the game was announced, there was far more trash talk on Twitter between fan bases than there typically are with games we announce. So that's kind of fun too. A lot of times we'll end up with what a lot of people go, wow, that's a random pairing.
Yeah.
And in this case, there is some history. It sounds like it's kind of based in recruiting. Certainly Bruce Pearl has his critics. Scott Drew has his critics. But a couple of, high profile coaches, top 25 type program the last few years. And so that was a really fun addition, for our third big game to announce. That's a pretty good third game.
Especially that's near the kickoff of the season. TV. That's got to be be jacked about that. Like, okay, we're starting the year. We got a pretty good matchup coming to start off the college basketball year.
Yeah, and part of the challenge for our folks who are far more involved in the actual scheduling than I am, but the challenge of those early season games is the weekend football situation.
Yeah.
Because again, if Baylor's got a home football game or a road football game or whatever, so that November 6th date being kind of during the week, avoiding football is helpful from a fan travel standpoint. And it's helpful from a TV standpoint. So we'll see where those games land. But that's always a tough consideration for us. And we don't have a lot of wiggle room. We're dealing with the teams we want with the dates they have available. Certainly we'll play weekend games, but even games that have involved like the Jackrabbits, it's difficult knowing their football team's going to make a playoff run, and it really limits the dates you have available. So that one in particular worked out really nicely.
You mentioned you got Nebraska and Oregon State. That's pretty good considering the amount of Husker fans that are either in Sioux Falls, in South Dakota, or they can drive up from Lincoln or Omaha. How did that one come about?
So that one's interesting because we've had, there's lots of connections there. On the Oregon State side, Wayne Tinkle is the head coach. A lot of people remember Wayne from Montana. Giant human being who I've seen stuffed in many small regional jets. It's always funny watching him get out of an airplane if you've never seen that before. And then on the Nebraska side, we have the Huskers here during the Tim Miles era, and that went really well. And they were just outside the top 25, I think, at that time. So Miles really kind of had them going. And then it's interesting. We've worked with Fred Hoiberg a fair amount over the years. and he booked the Iowa State game to be here before he had left, I think, or something along those lines. So again, he's been in our building several times. He's been really kind to Sanford Health from just a philanthropic standpoint too. He's attended some events. And then the recent news that, their kind of exciting star is coming back to play is great. Will help things out. So we'll see. Nebraska ball is an interesting topic. Certainly, we have a lot of Nebraska grads in the area. Again, it's not football, but they want to be good. It seems like they're always kind of knocking on the door, and hopefully they're bringing back enough now to really kind of have a breakthrough season.
I know we talked when you got the South Carolina SDSU women's game, and then hearing Dawn Staley say how much they enjoyed it. What does that mean for you guys as a group to hear that they wanted to come back again, and then you get an endorsement from arguably the biggest star in women's college basketball right now?
Yeah, we love us some Dawn for sure. Not only for the kind of thing she says about, but frankly who she is. She's willing to put herself out there in terms of a lot of important social issues. And if we can do anything to help her move that forward, or reward her kids, like however she wants to frame it, like we're in. And so it's great to see the success that they've had, and don't sleep on them this year. They lost a lot of talent, but I know they got in the transfer portal, which you don't always do. They've got, a top recruiting class again. So they'll surprise some people, if not wear a target, like they have the last couple of years. But yeah, that's the ultimate compliment. Again, she came to us with zero experience. She'd been to Sioux Falls because they played at the Denny Sanford Career Center in a regional, and frankly got upset. Didn't have a great experience. That was when Asia Wilson was on the team. And so the fact that they were willing to give the community a shot, a lot of coaches are superstitious. If I lose a game there, I'm never going back. And she's taking the opposite approach. So again, that certainly helps in the women's game. I think that doesn't hurt us in the men's game either. So our name is out there, and it's become more a matter of finding teams that fit into our schedule and that we really kind of want to be here, as opposed to sort of trying to convince folks that they should have heard of us by now. So it's definitely changed over 10 years of being opening.
And the fact that Jacks hung around in that game. I mean, South Carolina was a buzzsaw until the Final Four, and SDSU gave them one of the harder games they had all season, was there.
Yeah. And that was an SDSU team, again, that was on the brink of the Sweet 16. So they'll be loaded again as well.
All right, I got to give you one question before I let you go. I got to tap into your old reporting mind here with what – I don't know if you have any great Macomb stories you want to share about Western Illinois leaving, but with them gone – I look at, you've seen Northwest Missouri State. You've seen them play there. Would that be an option? They're really good in men's basketball. They're good in football. Is that a school that the Summit could look at?
That's a really interesting question. Now, full disclosure, I've got some connections there too. That program has played in our building.
Yes.
And I got to know Coach Ben McCollum a little bit. Terrific guy. The gentleman that hired a lot of that staff is actually retired and lives in Sioux Falls now, and is a friend of mine, Dr. Bob Boerichter. He's actually been inducted to their Hall of Fame here shortly. And so I've got some connections. My daughter also plays volleyball in that league.
Yeah.
The MIAA is a tremendous Division II conference. Again, they are north of that Kansas City metro. It's definitely in a smaller community, though.
Right.
I mean, it's not, I don't think you're pulling in the KC market. So people have to be realistic about that. I need to look at the finances. But again, that league has some resources. It would be an interesting move. And to your note on Macomb, I'll say this. I think Western deserves credit for being, and I think it helped that they were sort of, and a lot of times I don't mean this disrespectfully, but non-threatening from a competitive standpoint. But I think they were always, of the schools who had some feelings about the Dakotas coming in, at least publicly, they were never one of those schools. They're through different presidents, different ADs, different coaches. Right. Yep. You look at a guy like JD Gravina, who's handled himself nothing but beautifully and has tried to accept the challenge of what the Dakota schools bring to the table. Yeah. So I give them a lot of credit. I also, hey man, they're a college town. College towns are fun. They're interesting. Some are more out of the way than others. Is it easy to get to Macomb? No, it's not. But a lot about also people about scoffed at Vermilion and Brookings and all, so it comes with territory. So I was never one to look down on it. I always prided myself, and I could find a fun, interesting local meal in any market, more than once. There were some fun sandwich shops in Macomb. I always thought it was kind of cool. they still have like the train that goes through there.
Yep.
So a lot of the kids, when they go home, they ride the train, which is like a foreign concept to us in the Dakotas. So again, wish them well. I think that OVC will be a good fit geographically, and frankly, I think in terms of competition, I think most would say the Summit is at a half a tier ahead of the OVC in most things. And it's going to be really interesting to see where things go. Certainly there will be more movement, but how much? I don't, unless I'm missing something down. I'm not seeing the wide swaths of dominoes falling like we have at other times.
Always great to talk to you, man. Have a great summer if I don't see you beforehand, and we'll do this again soon, okay?
Absolutely. Anytime. Appreciate you guys. Hope everyone up there as well.
Thanks, bud. There he goes. TV, Terry Vanderbeck joining us from Sanford Sports, their marketing leader, and giving us the lowdown on some more college hoops coming to Sioux Falls. Big-time game. Auburn and Baylor. That'll be followed by Syracuse and Oregon, Oregon State, Nebraska, all men's games. I imagine there's probably a women's game they're working on as well, and when we hear that, we'll let you know about it. So some big-time hoops coming once again to the Pentagon in Sioux Falls. We'll take a break. When we come back, it is decision day for me. Whether I fork over a large sum of money or say I'm not doing it. We'll discuss that when Hot Mike returns right after this.
Midwest Kid Fest is Friday, June 9th from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. at Island Park in Fargo, with the Teddy Bear Parade kicking off the event at 10:30 a.m. Midwest Kid Fest will feature live music and entertainment, including Penny and Pal's final show. Enjoy games, inflatables, a petting zoo, and new this year, a sensory-friendly area. All activities are free of charge. Midwest Kid Fest, Friday, June 9th. Find out more at fargoparks.com.
Send your weather-related photos or video to the WDAY Storm Tracker team. Contact weather@wday.com or share them with us on Facebook and Instagram. Keeping an eye on the sky. The WDAY Storm Tracker team.
I've been doing this for a long time. Somebody has to stand up for victims.
Detective Stabler, my partner, Detective Benson.
The world is changing. It took a lot of courage to get up on that stand. There's no stigma in coming forward. Please help me stop him.
He's not gonna ever be able to hurt you again.
I promise you, I'll protect you. I'm not gonna stop until we find this guy.
Weekdays at 12 p.m.
In this job, you take your eye off it for 1 second. People can die.
Go now! Don't think. Just do it.
We're gonna get her out.
Here we go.
Hey, slow breath.
I'm a firefighter, and I will always be a firefighter. Did a great thing today. It's all because of you.
Weekdays at 7 p.m. and 12:05 a.m.
News happens at all hours of the day and night.
Stories develop and situations change in the blink of an eye.
In our community, knowing where you can turn at any time of the day
for clear information and facts
is more important today than at any other time.
That's why we start our day
in the middle of the night
to gather new information
and be ready to bring it to you.
Tracking what has changed overnight and how that will impact your day today.
We're here for you with the most up-to-date news and weather
to get you on your way.
Because your community
is our community.
Sorry, I'm out sick again. I just can't shake this fever.
Spread by mosquito bites, West Nile virus is found in nearly every state across the country.
Elena had another asthma attack. She's really sad to miss school again.
Asthma, a leading chronic illness among children and youth in the U.S., can often be triggered by allergens from household pests.
Hi, Chief. I finally got a diagnosis. It's Lyme disease. I'll be out for a few days, maybe longer.
Every year, nearly 300,000 people nationwide are diagnosed with Lyme disease, an illness from tick bites.
Coach, I'm at the hospital. I got stung by something and had a bad allergic reaction. I'm not going to make the game.
Stinging insects send more than 500,000 people to the emergency room every year. Don't let pests force you to take a sick day. Learn how to protect yourself and your family at pestworld.org.
Do you want to meet a family with a transgender kid? Here we are. Max loves to do backflips. Max loves to play his ukulele. Max loves to just be a kid and just be himself. When I found out I was pregnant, all I really wanted was a happy, healthy, whole child. And that's what I got. I think it's really important for people to know that trans kids don't have a political agenda. They are just kids. Like any parent, we love our kids unconditionally, and we will never stop fighting for them. Stand with us. Protect our families.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. The same way you plan each detail for those moments. Start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
Welcome back, everybody. Our Twitter poll question for the day on our Hot Mic feed reads as follows. Should I order the NFL Sunday ticket today? Now, why is today the deal? Because today is the day that I can get it without it being abnormally, exorbitantly too high that I can't even do it. So we all know YouTube is now the home for Sunday Ticket, and that will begin this fall. I purposely got DirecTV, whatever it was now, 15 years ago, so I could not only watch the Jets play, but also the Mets play. And now that's almost out of date now because I can watch pretty much everything on my phone with the MLB app. But here's the rub with it, because prior to the trade that went down with the New York Football Jets and the Packers, I would have to get this because they would never be on television. Rightfully so. They're not very good. But if I didn't, then I'd never see them. But now that Aaron Rodgers plays for the Jets, and I ran into a fan of the show last week when I was up at Newman Outdoor Field. Didn't even say hello. Says, well, what do you think of your quarterback now? And she's a Packer fan, and I've run into a few of those over the last couple months asking me that very question. And I answer the same way. I don't like him personally, but if he helps us win games, let's go. Anyway, the point on that is because now that he's there, the Jets have the maximum amount of games on primetime. They're on 6 times out of the 17 games. And you have to figure there's going to be a couple of games, and I say a couple, probably 4 or 5, they're going to be moved to the late Sunday window nationally. So now, if that's the case, we're up to 10. So that's 10 out of the 17. All right, let's just be, so is that worth the price? Now, I'm not switching up my provider because I still have DirecTV. So if I want to get it today, I have to. It's June 6th is the deadline for the inaugural $100 off the retail price. Either I get it for $349, that's without the red zone, or I get it with the red zone for $389. So I did some math, which is always scary, because I've had this package for ever. I never got it for free. The old man always gets it for free. Like, either my sister calls up DirecTV and threatens to cancel it, and then bam, he gets it for free. He always brags to me about that. I've never done that. Never got it for free either. But it roughly equals out to about that much. But here's the rub on this. And I'm not sure how everybody does their TV inputs, but this is how I have it, right? I have my main input 1, let's just say, is for DirecTV, right? And then input 2 is my Apple TV where I stream everything, whether it's Hulu, ESPN Plus, Netflix, whatever, Amazon Prime. And that's where YouTube TV is as well. So I can't just change the channel now. Like if I'm watching the Vikings and, all right, I want to see what the Jets game is at or the other games going on, because apparently I have to play fantasy football again, even after I finished last year. If I go and buy and go to my other input, then I have to go and do that. That's a hassle on that. And honestly, there are more people than not that tell me that for streaming on the bigger conversation we're having about streaming sports is that is more a issue than people know. That it's just easier to change the channel than it is to change my input and find it and go through all that, which is what I'd have to do for this. That alone is maybe the biggest reason. The price, that's what I spent. It's the hassle of trying to find it now that may discourage me. What are right now, the early voting on this says 63% said I should do it. 23% said, no way, save your money. About 14% say the Jets will be on TV enough. I'm almost leaning that way. I have until what? Probably 11 o'clock tonight to figure this out? I don't know. I mean, I like watching the other games. Honestly, I do. Sometimes when I like the Red Zone, but it's now with Scott Hansen. It's not with Andrew Siciliano because they've merged that. The DirecTV part of it is done. It's just now the NFL. And I've never watched the NFL Network one. I've never done that because I had the DirecTV one. And I imagine there's millions of other people in the same boat. That's why we got it. I need some information. I'd like to know how many people have actually signed up for this thing already. I know Drew has. Drew's going to be on the show tomorrow. He told me he's already done it. But I have to make up my mind before he's on the show. Decision day. We'll break. When we come back, you'll meet another outstanding kicker from the Fargo-Moorhead Metro. Fargo North's Max Watson will join us about how the line of kickers continues out of this town and how Division I football may be around the corner for him as well. I'm Mike. Back after this.
Get 11% off everything at Menards with the Barracuda half-horsepower cast-iron sump pump. Be prepared for spring flooding and keep your basement dry. Get it for just $109.99 after rebate. Finish your dream bathroom with Sterling tubs and showers that fit your style and budget, like this Sterling Ensemble shower. Its durable high-gloss finish provides lasting beauty. Get this Sterling Ensemble tub and shower for $629.98 after 11% rebate now at Menards.
Save big money at Menards.
The end of hunger and poverty starts here. Your gift of an animal from Heifer International can help a family with food and income, all while caring for the earth. Heifer International. Learn more at heifer.org.
For children fighting critical illness, it can make the stars align. Because when we come together, hope and joy will shine. Help us make every wish come true.
I'm Naheem Hines. I support the Muscular Dystrophy Association because they help my mom and kids like Ethan.
Thanks to the Muscular Dystrophy Association and people like you, I have more hope than ever before.
Join us and learn more at MDA.org today.
When you or a loved one is diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it can be tough to know where to turn. But the Alzheimer's Foundation of America is here for you. We've helped tens of thousands of people through our 7-day-a-week helpline, connected communities nationwide with information and support through our Educating America tour. And our telephone-based support groups meet weekly, providing assistance and support to families. We do it all because of one thing, you. Join us in the fight against Alzheimer's and donate today. ALZFDN.org or call 866-232-8484.
Here it is. Look how cheap it is.
Go for it, Steph.
Be careful what you buy online.
It's finally here.
Counterfeit products are illegal.
They are fake and can be damaging to you, your property, and your wallet.
It looks real, but I don't have a good feeling about this. Whoa, no, get out!
Go. Buying fake products can cost you the health of your face, skin, and eyes, or scar you for life. Real products are tested for safety. Buy the brand. Protect yourself. This message is brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council and the United States Patent and Trademark Office.
You're smart. Buy smart.
Go for real.
Go for real.
Go for real.
Federal investigators blame human error for a deadly natural gas explosion.
We all remember where we were that morning.
We could actually see the smoke from our farm here, which is close to 20 miles away.
I just heard a big boom. The tile plow ruptured into the pipeline. Once the gas got through the intakes of the tractors is when it ignited. I started running as fast as I could. The ground literally started erupting from my feet.
Watch the rest of the story at 3secondslater.org. And remember, Farm Safe starts with 811.
Today, we simply don't know enough about autism. SPARK, the largest study of autism ever, is transforming the way this research is done. But we need everyone in the community to participate. Learn more at sparkforautism.org.
Welcome back, everybody, on a Tuesday morning spectacular. Hot Mic rolls on, WDAY Extra, KSFL TV at Sioux Falls, Inforum.com. We mentioned off the top of the show of the kicking boom that has taken place in this town over the last 3 years. It began with Shanley's Emmett Kenny, who booted a 58-yard field goal 3 years ago, ended up taking that to get a college scholarship to go kick at Stanford. Landon Dockin from Fargo South did the same. Now he's signed, going to be going to the University of North Dakota this coming fall. And the next may be in line at Fargo North, where Max Watson is off a great season for the state runners-up in Class 11A. And he's been in Arizona the last little bit working out. Actually got a chance to go to an Arizona Cardinal camp over the last couple days. And he joins us from Arizona on this Tuesday morning. It's great to see you, bud. Congratulations on what's gone on here over the last little bit. We were just visiting off air that you got some kicking tips from Matt Prater yesterday. Describe that and how surreal that must have been.
Yeah, thanks again for having me on here. It's pretty sweet and special. So the camp was something else. It was really cool. And we went there warming up, and I'm lined up to kick a ball, and I see Matt Prater behind me, and I'm like, oh, God, here we go. And hit a good ball, and he said, nice ball, man. And after that, it was pretty special. And then just learned from him the whole time how to hit a clean ball every time, how to stay square to the ball. So it's something really special that I'm looking forward to doing again.
Well, that's awesome. I want to start by asking just about, you heard me mention those guys that you know. Why is it that the place kickers has become a thing in Fargo? What has gone on here over the last little bit?
I think it's because people realize that they can earn college scholarships out of it, honestly, and they find that they love it. It's fun to do. You put the time in, the work in. Colleges will see you, and it's a good way to pay for college, I guess. I love it. Just played soccer my whole life. Coach Rowland asked me one day, hey, have you ever kicked a football? I said, no, coach. Gave me a few footballs, picked it up pretty easily, and haven't looked back since. So I'm excited for the future with that. That's
remarkable. Tell us about that, because I've heard that as well from others. Emmett being one that was a soccer player. What was it? Was it literally just, hey, come out and try out for football?
Yeah. So me and my brother were on the turf one day just playing soccer, and he's out there with his guys in the summer for track. And he came up to me. He's like, hey, you ever kicked a football before? And I said, no, coach, I have not. And I told him, I was like, I'm not planning on it either, but thanks again. And he said, well, let me just give you a few footballs and you can try it out. So he handed me the footballs. I tried it out, and I was like, all right, this is kind of fun. I like this. And he's like, come by this practice day and we'll see if it works out. So I showed up to practice, got the starting job the first day I was there. So it was pretty fun. It was awesome.
All right. For the layman who's never kicked either one, I've done a little bit. How different is it? Are you hitting with a different part of the foot from a soccer ball to a football?
Yeah, so for a football, you want to hit it with like your bone almost. There's like a huge bone that sticks out on your leg, on your foot, and that's where the ball is supposed to be hit. And then you hit the sweet spot of the football. If you hit those two spots, the ball should just be killed. I believe in you, Dom. I think you can do it.
Without breaking my foot, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
That might not go so well. That may not be.
You got it.
And then with a soccer ball, where are you kicking it there?
Almost like the top of your foot, kind of.
Okay.
You want to hit it with the top of your foot. Yeah, so it's different for sure. I remember going back to soccer last year, and I couldn't realize how to kick the ball anymore after I played my whole life because I've been kicking footballs all summer long. So
well, that was my next question. Are you done with soccer, or are you still going to do that?
I'm not sure yet. That'll be a decision for me and my parents to make if I'm going to hang it up or keep it going. So.
So if I would have told you this a couple years ago that you're going to pursue football and not soccer, would you say I'm crazy?
Yeah, I wouldn't have believed you at all. Not at all. It was not in my future whatsoever.
So after the season, or as the season's going on last fall, then you start hearing from colleges. What was that emotion like? It's like, okay, this has become a thing now.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet. I remember just showing my dad, mom, everything. I was like, no way. Like these colleges reaching out to me. I was like, these are big schools that I never thought like anything of. And I'm like, wow, this is sweet. And my dream kind of turned more into reality. And I was excited. I was like, thank you for reaching out. So I went on junior days to NDSU, UND, game day visits there. And the more everything's gone on, the more it's become more of reality and very exciting for me and my family. That's for sure.
I'm looking at a tweet you put out last week that you got an official invitation to the Coles National Scholarship Camp. For those that I know what this is, but Max, for people that aren't in the kicking game, what is this and how big a deal is this?
So 3 weeks ago, I went to the Coles Midwest camp up in Chicago. And so I ended up kicking well there, received a 4.5 stars. And so after that, they invited me to the Tennessee camp, which is an invite-only camp. So it's a pretty big deal. If you go there and compete very well, you can get invited to the All-American game, which would be very sweet. So I'm excited to hopefully be able to do that. But Coles is great. It's basically the best kicking coaches in the game. They rank you between your class. And yeah, that was pretty special. So something I'll have to look out with my parents and try to make it to, for sure.
So this is like the best in the country that are going to be there, correct?
Yeah. Yep, it'll be the best of the best, and it'd be a challenge for sure, but it'd be fun.
Again, just you started doing this not that long ago, and now you're at an elite level. I mean, that's just got to be, you can't wrap your mind around that.
Yeah, that's what I like to tell. I like to tell coaches that too. A lot of kids have been kicking their whole lives, and I'm just as good, in my opinion, I'm just as good as them. I've only been doing this for 2 years. So I'm saying I'm still developing, and I'm going to get a lot better as it goes on. So,
all right. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but how do you get rated? Like, you got 4.5 stars. I know how you can do a quarterback and a running back and a wide receiver or a linebacker. How in kickers do you get rated? I need to know this.
Yeah, so at the Coles camp, there's Coles, Chris Saylor. So I went through Coles, and you go there and you chart field goals. So you like 58, and then you go to 52, 50, and then you go left and right.
Okay.
And then you chart kickoffs as well. So then between everyone in the country that they go watch, they rate you between your class. And then after that, they give you your stars after. So it was pretty sweet. It was awesome.
What's the furthest you can kick right now?
You know what? 2 weeks ago, I hit a 60-yarder. So
holy cow!
Yeah, I'm going back there, getting back.
So you could tell Roland then if you need one from 50, 55, you're good. You're all set.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. Yeah, UND came down a few weeks ago to watch a few of us train on the field. And I ended up hitting a 58 in front of our coaches and their coaches as well. So I was like, there you go, coach. You know my limits. So that was pretty special.
How exciting is this, nerve-wracking? Because it's different than the other elements of football where everybody's looking at you. You know, other parts, they can look at the offensive line, the wide receiver, quarterback. When you're kicking, everybody, they don't want to be looking at the holder. They certainly don't want to be looking at the long snapper. They're looking at you. How do you handle that mentally?
I love it. I'm ready at all times. You can't feel scared at all or it's going to go badly. So you got to stay confident the whole time you're up there and just expect to make the kick every time. You can't be going there with any bad energy. So I stay ready. I'm positive the whole time through the process, and I'm just ready to put the ball. through the uprights.
We had your teammate Peter Haugo in studio a couple months ago, right before he announced his commitment to NDSU. You guys obviously made it. We showed video of it in the state championship game and the loss to Jamestown. Describe the energy around your team right now, Max, with the anticipation you guys could be really good in 2023.
We're ready. I know the boys are practicing right now up at Fargo North, and we're all ready to make it back there again this year and take it home. Last year was a bummer for us, but this year we're coming back. We're coming back, Dom, and we're expected to be there again. And we're all hoping and grinding that we'll get there and win it this year. So we're all excited for that.
Well, to see you guys make it to the Dakota Bowl, boys basketball win the whole thing, baseball made it to the state championship game. What is it like right now at Fargo North with you guys and where you're at athletically?
Yeah, we knew our junior class and sophomore class, senior class, I guess. But we always knew coming up that sports were going to get a lot better for Fargo North. In the past, they weren't the greatest, but we knew our junior class, once we came up, sports would turn around, and it's surely been true. Hockey's gotten better. That's been really fun. And every other sport's just starting to go to state now. So it's been fun.
So when soccer season comes around here, I mean, you just look at it like, well, it's nice to know you guys. Is that how it goes now?
No. I go there for I split practices. So I'm going there for an hour a day and football an hour a day. So it's a grind for sure, but it's fun. I love doing it.
It's just kind of crazy to see how all this has come about. So what you mentioned, how much longer are you in Arizona and what's ahead? I mentioned you got the Coles thing is the middle of next month. What's the calendar looking ahead now?
Yeah, so I'm here till the 10th. I leave Saturday, and I'm going to the U of A camp this Thursday. So that'll be pretty fun, trying to go earn a scholarship, try to go compete, and then just train the rest of the time I'm here, kicking outside with a few kickers in the area, and then I fly back, and then I plan on doing a few more just local camps, NDSU, UND, probably MSUM, and then a few smaller schools, maybe go to Minnesota again this year. Probably some Montana schools, South Dakota schools. So it's going to be a busy summer, but I'm looking forward to it and I'm very excited.
Okay, here's another dumb question. How do you train outside of legs? Like what is training involved for kickers?
Like lifting wise or kicking wise?
Yeah, the whole deal.
So I like to think that legs are the most important thing, obviously, for kickers. Right. So I believe in squatting, but also mobility and being able to be very flexible. So you got to be stretching. They want you to stretch every day, morning and night, being able to be flexible so you can have loose hips, one of the biggest things. But yes, down here when I'm kicking and then I lift with them after, we do a lot of mobility lifts. So being able to stay flexible and more power work, that's what they like to push on kickers. So they'll be sending me home workouts that I can do at home. So that'll be fun. But yeah, it's more so agility wise, power, and then flexibility wise. So it's fun.
Who's your favorite kicker right now?
My dad asked me this question before you did, and I'm going to have to say Harrison Butker. They told me that I have a similar kicking style to him. So that's what I'm going with.
Works out all right. Won a Super Bowl. He's okay. He's pretty good.
Yeah.
Was there one you like watching growing up?
You know what? I was not think I was gonna be a kicker when I was growing up, so I didn't really watch football that much. Wasn't really into it, so I couldn't say anything about that.
Who's your favorite soccer player then?
You know what, Dom? I don't even have one. I played soccer my whole life, and I don't even have a favorite soccer player.
You got a team? You got a team that you always cheer for?
Don't even got a team.
That's all right. Hey,
I just do it for the game.
I appreciate you coming on. Good luck in Arizona, and hopefully we'll have a chance to chat before the fall gets going, okay?
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you, bud. Thanks for the time. There he is, Fargo senior-to-be Max Watson from Fargo North down in Arizona, working out there. And it's a name to keep an eye on here as the recruiting cycle continues. Again, Fargo produced another elite kicker. Started with Emmett Kenny, Landon Dockett, and now Max Watson, maybe the next to add his name to the list. One that we'll keep an eye on here, certainly over the next little bit. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show, put a cap on things, recap what happened with the PGA and the LIV, and get ready for a busy Sports Tuesday. We'll do that when we wrap up the show after this.
Breaking news, the latest weather, and live sports delivered straight to you. Watch the news leader, WDAY News.
recreational marijuana in Minnesota comes after years of advocating.
News you can trust from the most experienced team in the region. On and off the field with expert coverage and analysis.
Swung on and missed. Oral Roberts is the Summit League Tournament champions.
WDAY News.
Imagine if we had spent hundreds of billions per year subsidizing giant meteors. That's what you're doing right now.
Alcoholics Anonymous. For more information, visit aa.org.
Hello, I'm Kevin Jameson, volunteer and president of the Dementia Society of America. Please request our free guide filled with facts about dementia. Go to 1-800-DEMENTIA.org or call 1-800-DEMENTIA. Thank you.
There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey.
I want to beat cancer. I'm going to beat it. That's no doubt in my mind. I'm going to win this battle.
At the V Foundation, V is for victory over cancer. Join our team in the fight against cancer at V.org.
More than 1 in 10 Americans live in poverty. A grandmother chooses between heat and her medication. A man, cold and stoic, silently cries for help. A mother skips a meal so her child gets an extra helping. Newcomers escape conflict, only to struggle to find their footing in the U.S. This year, Catholic Charities agencies will serve more than 15 million people in need. Join us as we lift our sisters and brothers out of poverty. Because this isn't a handout, it's a hand up. Learn more at reducepoverty.org. Together, we are changing lives.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 in the morning, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. He asked all his therapists to help him undertake some of the house chores. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey.
Yes, the most popular video on my feed yesterday, the Jackman getting some, I can't even say retribution, because he got me wet on Saturday. Got me with a hose. His mom just sat there and didn't help nothing to help, nothing. Laughed all the time. Couple of interesting tweets on the PGA Live deal. Shane Bacon, who works for the Golf Channel, hearing from multiple PGA Tour players. They had absolutely zero heads up on this before the announcement was made on social media. That's crazy. That, to me, that's wild. Colin Morikawa, you might know him, won a couple of majors, said, always great to find out news when I wake up on Twitter. Scott Van Pelt, who obviously worked for the Golf Channel, is ESPN's main golf guy. So you preach loyalty to a tour and convince guys not to take 8- and 9-figure deals based in part on that loyalty and in part on the source of the money. Then those guys found out on Twitter you took the very same money. That's going to be the questions that'll come for Jay Monahan, the commissioner, on this left and right. There are still no real answers on how this is going to look, what it's going to look like, how it's going to work. That to me will be in the coming days on how this all bears out. It's fascinating that no one knew about this. It's just kind of that these kind of deals normally don't sneak up on anybody. And even if we thought this may happen this time last year, that eventually these two sides may come together, it's still, you kind of shake your head at it. Especially, like, it wasn't that long ago, Jim Nantz on CBS was still taking shots at the LIV. I think it was during the PGA Championship. He was talking about Brooks Koepka. He said, you probably didn't see this. It's taking a shot at the LIV Tour and their television deal. And now they're all together. It's just fascinating to see how this plays out. Much more on this. We'll dive into it more tomorrow because I think it's worth talking about because it's a huge sports story that landed in our laps at about 9:10 this morning when we started our show. By the way, shout out to Max Watson. That was great. He's a great interview, and hopefully we can have him on the show again when things materialize for whatever. So, because something's going to happen for him in college football. Good stuff there. Let's, before we go, we do it every day. Let's get ready for what to watch. Now, I preface this like I started the show. We're not sure how great a sports day it is for TV viewing. It may have just turned up for those that like the golf stuff. The Minnesota Twins are back on the diamond tonight with whoever is left to play, as they will take on the best team in baseball tonight, the Tampa Bay Rays. 5:30 start. Again, it's on Bally. They still are televising games. Louis Varland will go for the Rays tonight. Zach Eflin will pitch for Tampa. He's quite good. 7-1, ERA of 3.30. He's been dynamite for Tampa. The whole Rays have been. They've won 43 out of 62 games this season. It's an early year start. 5:30 tonight on Bally Sports North. The French Open is ongoing. Quarterfinals on the Tennis Channel. It's the most invisible major out there. It is. Like Wimbledon, you can't miss it. The Australian Open, you can watch into the middle of the night. The U.S. Open is on all the time. The French Open, I have no idea whenever it happens. All I know is normally it's Nadal winning, and he's not playing. But it's going on. For those that get the Tennis Channel, you can check that out right now. And tonight, yes, for the first time this season, the New York Mets will play the Atlanta Braves. This is the first time they have played since the Mets went to Atlanta at the end of last season. All they needed was one win. One win, and they would have won the division. And they got swept. Now, the Braves are, all right, they're cooking along. And the Mets are 500. That's tonight on TBS. Can't guarantee there won't be something thrown at the television tonight and how that goes. We got to roll. Thanks to our guests today, to Mike McFeely, Terry Vanderbeck, and Max Watson. If you missed any of our show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. Everybody have a great Tuesday. Stay cool out there. We'll see you back here tomorrow on Hot Mike on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV, and Inforum.com.
Transform your home with a new garage door from Ideal Door at Menards. We have 9x7 and 16x7 size doors across multiple styles. In stock today. Get a 9x7 non-insulated garage door for $334.99 after sale price and rebate. Complete your project with a Chamberlain garage door opener. Our belt drive model comes with built-in Wi-Fi, allowing you to control your garage door from anywhere. Now, just $179.99 after 11% rebate at Menards.
Save big money at Menards. On the next Tamron Hall, our summer of sizzling shows is just getting started. From one of the hottest shows on Netflix, the stars of Never Have I Ever are here.
Catch you on the flippity flip.
Gen Z is scary. Then on Wednesday, Taye Diggs is back with the Tam Fam. Taye joins us for our first ever Tam Fam yearbook. Find out why he's been voted most likely to change the world. That's all coming up on the next Tamron Hall.
Weekdays at 2 p.m.
On the next Tamron Hall, our summer of sizzling shows is just getting started. From one of the hottest shows on Netflix, the stars of Never Have I Ever are here.
Catch you on the flippity flip.
Gen Z is scary. Then on Wednesday, Taye Diggs is back with the Tam Fam. Taye joins us for our first ever Tam Fam yearbook. Find out why he's been voted most likely to change the world. That's all coming up on the next Tamron Hall.
Weekdays at 2 p.m.
Midwest Kid Fest is Friday, June 9th from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. at Island Park in Fargo, with the Teddy Bear Parade kicking off the event at 10:30 a.m. Midwest Kid Fest will feature live music and entertainment, including Penny and Pal's final show. Enjoy games, inflatables, a petting zoo, and new this year, a sensory-friendly area. All activities are free of charge. Midwest Kid Fest, Friday, June 9th. Find out more at fargoparks.com.
This morning, we're kicking off the day another warm, muggy, and hot note with a few showers scattered across parts of the area, mainly across northern Minnesota. Very similar situation to what we had yesterday. So today's top three, more of the same. Expect that this afternoon, and actually most of this work week is going to be looking pretty similar with those chances of thunderstorms kind of popping up mainly in the afternoon and evening. Yesterday, Fargo kind of dodged a lot of that. There are some showers close to us, but you could see them off in the distance, or if you brought up your radar and the Storm Tracker app, you'd see that they're kind of scattered across the area. Right now, the weekend is looking a little bit cooler, so we'll be talking about that, how cool it will be. Well, it'll still be mild, but just cool compared